Let me ask you a question. If attention was your most valuable currency, would you still spend it the way you do? Personally, I wouldn't. But we live in a world of digital overload, where many of us don't even realize how much of our attention is being taken from us, and just how much time we spend online. In fact, studies show that our attention span when using those very devices alone has declined significantly. According to Dr. Gloria Mark, a professor at the University of California, the average attention span on digital devices has dropped from about 2.5 minutes in 2004 to just 47 seconds in the last 5 years. To put that into perspective, imagine you're having a conversation with somebody and they interrupt you every 47 seconds. You wouldn't get very far into the conversation, would you? And it's not just about our attention span that's being chipped away. Dr. Tracy Davis reports that the average person will spend 9 years of their life staring at their phone screens. That's 3 times longer than the average German spends on holidays. And let's be honest, the Germans love their holidays. I'm going to show you 2 photos, and I would like everybody in the audience to tell me which photo brings you more joy. Where would you rather be? Photo number 1 is on the left. No? No one? And photo number 2 is on the right. Show of hands. We have a clear winner. That second photo was taken on a trip I took to Bern last May. I was there to attend a conference related to a project I was working on. And when I realized I had no Wi-Fi and no roaming, there was this sudden wave of panic because so much of my life is tied to my phone. Work, messages, even navigating my way around. Suddenly, I lost connection to all of it. And in that moment, being disconnected from my device left me feeling isolated and overwhelmed. But eventually, that panic started to fade. And after 2 days completely disconnected, it felt like my brain went offline too. The result was I felt calmer, more present, and actually living in that moment instead of scrolling through it. But, of course, that was quite short-lived, because the moment I got back, my phone started blowing up. I had 310 notifications waiting for me. And with each notification came back that same wave of anxiety, like I was already falling behind. And that's when it hit me. Maybe we're not distracted. Maybe we're living in a world that's fragmenting our focus. And that is why I want to share something that affects all of us. My name is Rumsha, and today I'm going to talk about how our digital devices are affecting our attention, our mental health, and quietly reshaping the way we live. More importantly, I want to share some simple and practical changes that will help you reclaim your focus. We check our phones on an average of 144 times a day. But the real cost isn't just screen time, it's what we're not doing in those moments. That's 144 times we're pulled away from valuable thoughts, meaningful conversations, and from being fully present in our real lives. Think about it. The second we hear a notification or we see the screens light up, we grab our phones. Before we know it, that quick glance has turned into a scroll, and suddenly another hour is gone. And the issue isn't with the time that's lost in scrolling. Research shows it takes on average over 23 minutes to fully concentrate on the task you were working on previously. And that's no accident either. Studies show that social media platforms are engineered to trigger dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that drives the brain's reward system. So every like, every notification, every scroll activates that reward system. And over time, we start to crave that feeling without even realizing, turning that feeling into an addiction. And that was proven by a study carried out by UCLA. The green dots that you see in the brain scan show activity in the brain's reward system. After teenagers saw a large amount of likes on their pictures on social media, this addictive cycle of constant phone use and dopamine-driven scrolling is now being recognized at a global scale. The World Health Organization now recognizes digital addiction as a global health concern. That is how serious this has become. It's no longer just a bad habit. It's a recognized mental health issue. After doing all of this research, I wanted to see whether the science matched real life experiences. So last year, I ran a survey with 114 participants from my own social circle, most of them aged between 18 to 24. And the results honestly surprised me. More than half of them admitted they spend 4 to 6 hours a day on screens, with 99% of them using their phones within an hour before bed. And again, the most striking part isn't just how much time people are spending on their phone, it's how it's making them feel. 65% said that they feel something negative after spending long periods on their phones. And 40% specifically admitted to feeling guilty or unproductive. So, you might be wondering, who's behind all of this? Who benefits from all of this? And the simple answer is businesses that profit from our distraction. The more time we spend on any social media platform, the more ads we see, and the more valuable we become for them. But not as customers, as products, because every second of our attention is turned into data, which is then sold for a profit. And this isn't just speculation from my end. This has come straight from the source, from an insider, somebody who helped build that system up. Sean Parker, Facebook's first president, admitted the thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them, was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. That is not a design flaw. That's their business model. It's not a fair fight, right? We're going up against all these algorithms that know exactly how to keep us hooked. And the worst part is most of us don't even realize we've been pulled in. And sadly, it just gets even worse. One of the most serious and underestimated effects of screen use is on our sleep, largely because of blue light from our phones and laptops. And that's because blue light is not a new phenomenon. It exists naturally in our environment. It's a key part of sunlight and helps us regulate our internal body clocks by boosting mood and alertness during the day. But at night, the artificial blue light from phones and screens send the wrong signal, tricking the brain into thinking it's still daytime and suppressing that melatonin release. Even just 2 hours of screen use before bed can make it harder to fall asleep and make it harder to reach deep and restorative rest. So, what can we do to overcome this? How can we stop from getting derailed so often? The truth is, distraction itself is not the issue. It's only the symptom. To be able to reclaim our focus, we need to dig deeper and figure out what's causing that lack of focus in the first place. What helped me was observing my own habits and starting to make those small changes. For example, last summer, I was working a full-time remote job and also writing my bachelor thesis. Every day looked exactly the same. I'd wake up at 7:30, and the first thing I'd do was scroll on my phone. A quick scroll that somehow lasted until my workday started at 8 a.m. For the next 8 hours, I would sit at the same desk staring at my computer screen. When work ended, I told myself I deserve a break, so I'd scroll on my phone for another hour or two before I switch over to my laptop to work on my thesis, normally working late into the night, until midnight. Before I knew it, I was spending nearly 16 hours a day on screens, working, but not really focusing. And then the effects soon started to hit. The constant headaches, waking up feeling unrested. I was relying purely on caffeine. So I decided to experiment on myself, trying out different methods I had researched in order to improve my focus and overall well-being. And that's when I came across Ichigyao Zanmai. It's a Japanese practice that dates back to the 9th century. In English, the term translates to one practice concentration. So the idea behind it is that instead of multitasking and letting your mind wander, you commit to focusing intently on a single task or activity. It's a way to slow down, train your brain, and reclaim control over your attention. So, one task, total presence, and no distractions. So for me, that meant setting clear boundaries for myself and changing my routine. For example, what I started doing at night was turning off my phone, and I like to call it tucking in my devices. So I'd put away my phone an hour before my own bedtime and challenging myself to read instead of scrolling on my phone. After just one day of doing this, I noticed the difference. The headaches were gone. I felt energized and more focused. I needed less caffeine to function. Small changes that felt almost too simple, but they helped me feel more in control of my time and where I consciously chose to invest my focus. So, I challenge all of you to make that same change. How, you might be thinking. Number 1, control your environment. Cut the problem off at source. Notifications are a major driver of distractions. Turning them off or even using Do Not Disturb can reduce anxiety and rebuild that focus. Number 2, create a physical barrier. Replace your scrolling time with me time. For example, pick up a hobby you've always wanted to try and give it your full attention for a set period of time. That way, you're not just stepping away from your phone, you're building a new skill, and you're giving your mind the space to slow down. And lastly, paying attention to any urges. You know that urge you get to reach for your phone? Start paying attention to it. By becoming more aware of the impulse, you're blocking that automatic response. And that way, you're activating the part of the brain that's responsible for self-control. Remember, the key is consistency. Change doesn't happen overnight. In fact, building a new habit sometimes even takes 66 days or even longer. These changes may seem small and simple, but when you stick with it, your brain starts to rewire itself, over time shaping the way you live, work, and connect with others. And so, I'll leave you with one final question. If attention really is your most valuable currency, how will you spend it from now on? Thank you.